Hello and welcome to Run Testers. My name's Nick and this is our first run review of the Adidas Adizero SL. So the Adizero SL is a new addition to Adidas's Adizero range. It's pitched as an elite level shoe at a lower price point, so you've got some elements in the shoe that have been brought down from Adidas's more expensive racing shoes into a high stack daily trainer that probably leans a little bit more towards speedier running than your easy runs. It costs £110 in the UK, $120 in the US. It weighs in at 260 grams or 9.2 ounces in my UK size 9, and it's got a 10mm drop with a stack height of 35mm at the heel and 25mm at the forefoot. You've got a mesh upper with quite a lot of padding around the heel and tongue. I have to say, more than I expected when I first got the news about the shoe, which does suggest it is a bit more built for daily training. Got a little bit of reinforcement around the front of the toe box too, and then the midsole is a mix of Lightstrike EVA and Lightstrike Pro, and the mix is tilted more towards Lightstrike EVA. That's all you can see on the shoe here. The Lightstrike Pro is a drop-in under the forefoot of the shoe, so creates a slightly softer, bouncy feel at the forefoot there, with the firmer feel of the Lightstrike EVA at the heel and surrounding the Lightstrike Pro in the forefoot. Interestingly, the midsole geometry is certainly quite reminiscent of the Adios Pro 3 with the sculpted foam there and the little cutouts around the shoe. And then you've got a rubber outsole with this thin strip design. It's not continental rubber like you'll find on a lot of Adidas's shoes, but it'll be interesting to test the grip of it. Probably going to be running on fairly slushy pavements for a bit tomorrow, so that'll be a good test of that. It's going to be interesting to see where the SL really fits into Adidas's range, because it's quite a crowded area. Shoes already like the Adios 7 and the Boston 11 with similar elements to them, and even the SL 20.3. So to try and put the SL into some kind of context, it's a little bit heavier than the Adios 7, and it's got a much higher stack, and then it's a little bit lighter than the Boston with a lower stack, but the Boston has things like Adidas's energy rods in there. It's a slightly more high-tech shoe, and it's the most expensive shoe in this area of Adidas's range, the Boston is. The SL comes in slightly cheaper than the Adios, but it's the same price as the SL 20.3, which is another shoe that uses Lightstrike foam. That was pitched as a lightweight, slightly cheaper daily training option within Adidas's range. So this might come in and replace the SL 20.3 perhaps. It's got a higher stack with that Lightstrike Pro foam in there, and it's about the same weight. But it will be interesting to see really how it all shakes out, because the Adios is a pretty solid shoe that, to my mind, will do a similar job to this, but this has got a higher stack, so it could end up being a bit more comfortable on the run. Anyway, we'll find all that out by running in it, so let's go and do some of that. Comes to the fit of the shoe, it's been really good for me, true to size. I have a fairly narrow foot and probably a slightly small foot for my size, and it fits very well, really accommodating, nice amount of room in the toe box, good comfort around the heel with all the padding there. But maybe if you are someone who has a wider foot or is a bit larger for your size, you might find it a bit tight, but yeah, for me, really nice, true to size. So I've been out for a couple of runs in the Adizero SL so far. One was an easy, steady run that I had to do on the treadmill, just because it's a snowy mess here in the UK at the moment and there's nothing gritted around here, so to get any kind of consistent speed I had to use a treadmill. And I've been out for a short run today just to get some road feel on the few runnable areas there are around me. I do say a continental grip would have been handy for me right now, given the slick state of the pavements and the roads around me. But overall, I've been pleasantly surprised by the shoe. When I first saw the brief on this, I wasn't really sure what the point of it was going to be in Adidas's lineup, just because there is the Adios there is the Boston there, and it does actually fit between those two shoes quite well. I've certainly got a more relaxed, accommodating ride than the Adios I felt so far. Like, I think you're getting a slightly smoother transition here, and although it's got that firmer feel from the Lightstrike Pro at the heel there, it's not uncomfortable at all. I think there is a good amount of protection there, and it's less, I'd say, snappy than the Adios, which does mark it out more as an aggressive shoe that I think some people would like to use for daily training, but lots of people would see more as a speed day shoe. I think this has a slightly smoother, more accommodating ride that will work, I think, for more people, for relaxed runs in particular. Just mooching around just now in the cold, it felt pretty good, and that's in the cold, when EVA I'd have thought would have felt a bit stiffer and firmer. But yeah, as a heel striker, I'm getting a fairly nice transition with this shoe, and when you kind of roll through from the heel there, you do get that small dip into the softer foam at the forefoot of the shoe as you come from the heel, and getting quite a fast transition because of the firmer feel at the back there. So, and then you also get a little bit of pop on the way from the Lightstrike Pro. So it is a bit like the Adios, but in a more relaxed way, I'd say. The Adios certainly felt like a big snap onto that Lightstrike Pro, bounce on your way, and has a bit more Lightstrike Pro and will feel a bit nimbler and faster. And this is more akin to the Boston, I'd say, in terms of feel. I think it's quite an interesting shoe. I think it worked well when I was moved to faster speed. It's on the big progression run. I finished up running around kind of 335, 337 a K pace, and yeah, it felt fine for that. It's not going to be as out and out nimble and speedy as the Adios or other more racy shoes, but as with the pitch of it being more a daily trader that can handle speed, I think it should suit that quite well. So, cautiously optimistic about the Adizero SL after a couple of runs. Certainly more positive about it than I was based on specs alone, where I didn't really see how it was going to fit into the Adidas lineup. I think it is a pretty good value shoe, and I do think it should work quite well as a fast trainer. You're not going to get a really soft ride here. You're not getting loads of Lightstrike Pro, and I would say actually when I was forefoot striking, running a bit quicker and getting up on my toes to try some strides in the shoe, didn't really feel that fantastic. I thought that's when you'd be hitting the Lightstrike Pro, it felt better. Actually, I think it felt better for me rolling through from the firmer heel onto the softer stuff at the forefoot, which then did give me the feel of those two different foams in the shoe. And I do think it's got quite a nice transition that works quite well with my gait anyway. Plenty more running to do, obviously. I'll try and get out for a long run to see if the foam starts to feel a bit less accommodating and comfortable over those longer distances, because the Boston in particular is a very good long run shoe, I think. But overall, it seems like actually, in addition to the Adidas's range, that might work in the range. I didn't really see a place for it, but actually it does seem to slip in between the Adios and the Boston quite nicely. And being a slightly lighter shoe than the Boston might give it a bit more versatility when it comes to speed workouts. And it is obviously a bit cheaper than the Boston as well, but I would say the Boston works quite well for speed stuff as well. So there might be a bit more overlap with the Boston than the Adios, which does feel more targeted and speedy than this shoe, which actually surprised me in how accommodating it felt on the foot, just rolling through some miles just now. I will certainly steer away from the idea of describing this as a elite level super shoe at a lower price. It's not that at all. Obviously, like you tell by the makeup of the shoe, it's not going to hit close to the performance of things like the Adios Pro 3, but it might end up being quite a nice all-rounder training shoe if you don't like the Boston, find it a bit too much. This is slightly less shoe and cheaper, while still being able to hopefully do a similar job. Loads more testing to do, but so far I'd say that my concerns with it, that would be uncomfortable, clunky shoe, isn't the case. It's got quite a nice geometry. The ride of it works quite well, I think. And the other big concern was that I wouldn't see a point for it at all, in that the Adios already exists, the Boston already exists. That's probably still slightly true to an extent. Adidas has got two good shoes there, and there is the SL 20.3 as well, but do think this does slip in between the Adios and the Boston a little bit, and it does sort of lower price, although with price you've always got to take into account that the Adios and the Boston are shoes that are nearly always in sale somewhere, but that could end up being the case for the Adizero SL as well, which could make it decent value. So yeah, some cautious optimism here. I wouldn't say it's likely to end up being a must-have shoe, but I do now see what its role could be a bit more clearly in Adidas's lineup. So guys, that's our first take on the Adizero SL. Let us know what you think of the shoe in the comments. Were you surprised to see it come out? Are you interested to try it? Please do like, subscribe, ring the little bell, and we'll see you next time.